in modern Darwinian ideas that if you mutate or randomly change the digital characters in the DNA, the A's, C's, G's, and T's as they're represented by biochemists, then that would generate novel sequences of information, which would build new proteins, which would help sustain the building of new forms of life. If you, in our computer world, start randomly changing the zeros and ones in a section of functional software, you're going to destroy the function you have before you ever generate a new program or operating system. Mm-hmm. You fall off the functional plateau into a functionless abyss. Now, if that happens in biology, if you start changing the A's, C's, G's, and T's randomly, and they degrade the ability to build a functional protein before they generate the ability to build a new one, then you're going to fall into a functional abyss, and natural selection will have nothing to select because natural selection selects for functional advantage. Dan Tofik Israeli protein scientist, showed that if you start to accumulate mutations in a section of DNA for building a stable protein structure called a protein fold, within a very few number of mutations, you'll degrade the structure of that stable fold long before you ever come up with a new protein fold. If you start randomly changing things, you're going to wreck stuff before you ever generate something new that's functional. And that's a big problem that hasn't been solved. And it's one of the reasons that there are an increasing number of evolutionary biologists now calling for a new theory of evolution.
Wow. It's just insert time into any gap, and then therefore it explains everything, because you're saying that this is not a matter of if you stretch out time longer, that actually solves the core problem here.
Time is your enemy. Time does not help you. It hurts you, because the times that you have for the use of these molecules is very, very short. In the case of RNA, which is the primary hypothesis on how life might have started, you only have hours in order to use this. Hours. You have to have chemistry that's faster than the degradative chemistry. So this idea that well, you had billions of years, that's billions of years of trouble. Because if something happened to form the right way, you've only got 4 hours. If you had a protein that happened to form, you only have about 13 days and the thing is gone. If I make a compound in my laboratory and I have only a few hours to get it on to the next step, mm-hmm. I am working very, very hard to try to cool that down, to try to stabilize it, to try to get it on in the next step. Hours is a very short amount of time. They will insert time in their gaps and say time took care of this. And my argument is no, time doesn't take care of this. Time actually hurts you. But what we're finding is now we're finding red blood cells, and I'm not talking about fossilized stuff, red blood cells of T-Rex that was supposed to have died off 70 million years ago. I mean, I know organic matter doesn't stay around that long. And you say, and people say, well, you know, proteins have this enormous, they don't have an enormous half-life. I mean, an amide bond has a half-life in water of 7 years. What about all this collagen, which is all these proteins we're finding? I mean, they're filled with collagen. And so you wonder, did the dinosaurs really die off 70 million years ago? You know, you just do Gerald Schroeder, doesn't matter how you spell it, Age of the Universe. He's the one who says when you look at the relativity of time, we know our universe is expanding. And if you look at the early origins, then a 24-hour day at the early origins is going to look, when we're looking from our perspective, it's going to look like 1 billion years. From the early perspective, it's going to happen very quickly because the expansion of the universe is happening very fast. So all of time now is relative.